Welcome back to Live with AI Virtual CES 2022, a webcast series featuring industry experts and thought leaders on the topics of ADAS and autonomy, as well as virtual demonstrations of AI's CES Innovation Award-winning Foresight Lidar, a software-centric and solid-state solution that adapts and optimizes its scan patterns in real time. All of our broadcasts today you can find on AI's social media channels. That includes Facebook and Twitter, as well as LinkedIn and YouTube. Although I'm told from our AI command center that some of the final broadcasts today may or may not be airing on LinkedIn. So if you don't see them there, you definitely can find them on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. And then everything you've seen over the last 2 days will be archived on AutoVision News at a later date. So our next guest is keeping a very busy schedule on the ground at CES. So he is actually on site. We finally were able to get connected with him, and he's no stranger to industry conferences like CES, like AutoSense. He is a familiar face and a longtime speaker at many of these conferences. Phil Magni. He is the founder and president of VSI Labs in the Twin City. Now, Phil and his team conduct applied research to examine the performance and functionality of active safety and automated driving technologies. VSI Labs performs functional examinations of hardware and software components, including sensors, high-definition maps, machine vision, neural networks, connected services, and more. In 2019, he was appointed co-chairman of Minnesota's Council on Connected and Automated Vehicles. Phil is an active member of SAE International, a contributor to ITS International, and a contributor to AutoVision News, where he has written articles and white papers that have served as a wealth of knowledge for our readers. Please welcome to the program today, Phil Magni. Phil, so glad that you're with us, and you're on the ground there at CES, I see.
That's correct, Carl. Yes, thank you for having VSI on your program, and thank you AI for supporting VSI as well. Yeah, Carl, as you said, we do get around quite a bit, and especially over the past since COVID hit, basically, a lot of the conferences and whatnot have been unavailable or substantially reduced. But business goes on, and for VSI that meant taking the show on the road. Okay.
Yes.
And so, and this is what gave birth to the Automated Drive series. And, it all started because, we got to get these vehicles to the events and whatnot.
Right.
And, you can ship them. Okay. That takes a long time, that's somewhat unreliable, and it's very hard on the equipment. Or you can drive the vehicles there, and better yet, you can record edge cases and scenario data along the way that is going to be pretty random. And so we've been able to further, monetize, if you will, our trips through our data collection as well, Carl.
Right. And Phil, when we have talked in the past, and that Automated Drive series, that also led into your destination ACM events. And, Phil, when we have talked in the past, you've always said that the data is so critical. So share with our viewers today on live stream, why is data collection, like you're saying, on a cross-country trip and these edge cases, why is this important for the industry overall?
Yeah. Well, I'll start by kind of explaining a little bit about what we do. You gave a great intro, but, and that'll kind of help explain it as well. But, we work with innovators, in the space, especially on the sensor side, companies that have developed new, kind of groundbreaking, very innovative technologies in the area of sensors, especially. We've had the opportunity to work with AI now for nearly a year, and but with any of our customers, the story is all in the data, okay, and that's where the analytics are, and that's where you can really get down and examine closely just exactly what's going on, with the data. So Yeah, data. So there's a lot of use cases for the data, especially when you're doing development work like VSI is. You have to record the data, but you use it to kind of decompose the performance of your own sensor. You may
Mhm.
also use it for proving. You'll have other sensors that can be used for ranging and whatnot, or positioning, that can give you some
Yes.
ground truth. So
Yes.
the data is very good at examining sensor performance. It's also good to test algorithms with. Okay,
Hmm.
you can record these data sets and apply any type of algorithm to it in post processing and see how it reacts. So algorithm testing, and then we also work with annotators to take the data, and they'll further annotate it, and then that data becomes the basis for network training. Okay.
Hmm. Right.
Um, and then the last use case, which is really interesting, is the fact that we're working closely with these a lot of these agencies, DOT agencies, and
Yes.
in their application, what we do is we drive the road segments, okay, and we record all the data. Then we take the data in our lab and we post process it. Actually, it's all done in the cloud. Everything is virtual,
Right.
because once you get the data in the cloud, it's where it's going to live forever. Okay,
Sure.
basically.
Yes. Yes.
But we'll post process the data that we collect on these long road segments, and we're able to rate the readiness,
Hmm.
if you will, of that infrastructure. So we
Sure.
conduct an AV readiness study, whereby we can run a throw a bunch of algorithms at these data sets to see where things break down and what might be the cause of it. Okay, often it's lane markings, but it's generally within the context of slope, with surface
Hmm.
condition, sun's position, decreasing radius turns, you name it. So
Right.
we use the data for that as well.
So, Phil, a couple of years ago, when you started, the automated drive series, and then which eventually led to the destination ACM events, I remember writing about this. I remember covering this, and one of the things that you brought out that I think is very important is that this was about doing good engineering and doing good science. This was not a publicity stunt to say, look, we can take our hands off the wheel and we're going across the country. This was not to show off, but this was to conduct some good engineering. So, share with our viewers some of that philosophy behind these automated drive events that you do.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, good point. Yeah, we're not out to try to prove anything at all.
Hmm. Right.
We're out to expose the technologies to as much diversity as we possibly can. Okay,
Right.
and that's what we're able to do, and then examine the performance, find out what works well, what doesn't work well, and generally speaking, most of the sensor technologies that come to VSI work pretty good. Okay,
Right.
otherwise they probably wouldn't bring it to us. Okay,
Sure. Sure.
but we can take these functional prototypes and apply them to obviously a real vehicle,
Hmm.
and doing some real functional demonstration, whether it's some sort of ADAS testing, pedestrian detection, emergency braking, collision avoidance, things like that. Um, so yeah, and I think you mentioned ACM.
Yes.
That's kind of our proving ground. I guess you could say we're an
Hmm.
official tester there. I
Sure.
know, and that led to a kind of regular meetup that we would do there called Destination ACM,
Hmm.
which is held 2 or 3 times a year at ACM, and we invite
Yep.
industry and media to come out to see some of these technologies for the first time.
Yeah, and fantastic opportunity. And want to just, obviously to all of our live stream viewers, if they're in industry or press or media, to definitely attend those events at the American Center for Mobility right here near Detroit. Now, Phil, the last time we were there at ACM, you were working with AI. I sat down, we talked, I interviewed you, I interviewed Steve Lambright, who was the Chief Marketing Officer of AI. So you and AI AI were really working together at the last Destination ACM event. So talk about that. What work were you doing with AI, and what were some of the key findings there?
Well, we did a couple of things there. One of them was to validate the 1 kilometer range testing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that was we took a half a day and we set up on that long stretch of road and put up our targets and so forth and tested it, and we were able to validate that performance right at ACM. Then separately, separate test we did. I think it was the following day, and that was during the ACM event. We had a lot of industry
Mm-hmm.
come out for that, as you recall, including yourself.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
raining that day.
I
Okay,
remember that.
yeah, and so we set up the VSI vehicles, which have all the sensors, including the AI sensor on top. We set up all the vehicles outside the tunnel. Okay, and since
Yes.
it was raining naturally, we didn't have to, you know, bring in the rainmaker, which we had set up and ready to go,
I know.
which we were
I
using the day
know.
before. So we got the real thing, and we were able to detect a variety of objects through fairly dense falling rain precipitation, and to demonstrate how well that can work. And we also demonstrated that we can use the AI lidar behind the glass, behind the windscreen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
and so that can be kind of a game changer for a lot of industry players when they realize that it can be done behind the windscreen.
Right. And one of the things we've talked about quite a bit as part of this webcast series, Phil, is that there's LIDAR and then there's AI's LIDAR, right? So this foresight LIDAR, this adaptive LIDAR that's built on the principles of biomimicry, it's not your average LIDAR. So, Phil, with all of your experience in automotive, with safety systems, what are your thoughts on adaptive lidar just in general, and is that something that we need for automobiles in the future?
Um, it, it's very unique. Um, but it what it does is it just opens up the applicable use cases when you have that dynamic scan pattern that can
Yeah.
adjust itself to the conditions in which it's operating within.
Hmm.
And that's surely a key benefit right there. Okay, the ability to change its scan patterns and adjust to different scenarios and situations and conditions. So we like that. But obviously, and the ranging, clearly, and that's a certain kind of scan pattern, obviously optimized for a kilometer of ranging. But the fact of the matter, it can be done, and
Hmm.
so you get plenty of range with the AI device.
Right. So, Phil, you're on the ground there at CES.
Yeah.
You're in the VSI Labs test vehicle. So, tell our viewers what are you demonstrating? What are you showcasing at CES this week?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, just for kicks, I don't know
Yeah.
if you see well, but not so well.
Yeah.
It's the glare is terrible.
Yeah.
You can barely see
Those.
the. That's
I love it.
pretty crummy, but you get the idea. Yeah, the silver car is right next to us right now,
Yes.
and what we're doing here today with one of our customers is we're doing literally an automated driving retail type application where the
Okay.
consumer can get into the automated vehicle and there's an HMI and they can choose that the retailer they want to go to, and the vehicle literally takes them there. We've programmed the
Wow.
vehicle through a pre-recorded route to follow that like a virtual rail. So it's going around this block, pretty big block for Vegas, as most people know.
Hmm.
But we found an area that's not too crowded, and we've been doing some demos here today. So that's a positioning type application is what we're demonstrating there. But our vehicles can do a lot of things, a lot of different applications. We have a lot of different sensors on them, as you
Right.
know. Now, coming out, I will say, it was, the show was kind of on the bubble, obviously, for everyone,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Right.
And
Right.
we had to kind of monitor day by day. Okay, is CS going to happen or not? Well, we kind of felt like it was going to happen, but we were getting worried like everybody else. But we were already committed. We thought, well, let's do it. We took a reduced staff a little bit, but we still have two vehicles. But what I wanted to get at is, we left. There's a snowstorm blowing through Colorado and into
Right.
Nebraska and Iowa, and so I-80 was basically worthless. Well, we knew
Mm-hmm.
this when we departed, so we
Right.
took a northern route. We took I-90 basically, but
Okay.
nevertheless, on this trip, we were able to pick up and we recorded a substantial amount of black ice. Okay,
Okay. Oh,
and
wow.
black
Okay.
ice is I don't know if it's conditional situation, not necessarily an edge case, but
Right.
it's very difficult for sensors to pick up black ice, and
Right.
so again, the benefit of coming out this time of year is you're going to get some diverse weather, and we got plenty of that. But we got to Vegas, and I would say there's probably 25% of what you normally would see here on average, looking around, going to the different halls and whatnot. It's working for us because we're able to still meet a lot of people, and a lot of the startups and so forth are here. So we're making the best of it. But most importantly, we're here to support our customers, like
Yes.
AI. And even though AI is not physically at the show, you're obviously keeping the community alive, Carl, with your program here,
Thank you.
and of course you've got a presence on the VSI vehicle, and the VSI vehicle is all over the place,
Yeah.
and getting a little bit of exposure that way too.
And speaking of the VSI vehicle, you know, Phil, I remember again a couple of years ago when I interviewed you for the first time when the Automated Drive series was starting. You've done some incredible modifications to that Ford Fusion of yours to get all of that equipment in there and then to keep it cool as well. So, talk to us about the VSI Labs test car. What makes them unique? Tell our viewers a little bit about that.
Couple of things. Got great question, Carl. A couple of things. Um, Whatever you're going to do, if you're going to build a development vehicle, you got to do it on a good foundation, okay?
Sure.
And that's a data speed foundation, okay?
Mhm.
Because that's going to give you the by-wire control and the full transparency to the CAN bus and everything you need, and you got to have all the safety gear and whatnot, because the stuff takes a beating. So we always work with those vehicles, those data speed platforms. We know them really well, and we can integrate into that. Um, but yeah, another weak point in the stack on a development vehicle is going to be heat. Heat builds up, especially in the trunk. And the gear can fail. So we have to have special cooling for the trunk. It's really passive. Well, we have some fans and whatnot, so we're able to cycle cabin air. But the computer is a liquid cooled computer from Crystal Rugged that's really
Mhm.
military grade, liquid cooled, high performance computer. It's got multiple GPUs in it. But this vehicle, in fact, we were running hot the other day in some of our tests, and we opened up the reservoir, and sure enough, we were low on coolant. So
Right.
off to the auto parts store to get some coolant, the orange coolant, which
Yeah.
is what it calls for, and we were back in business. So
Right. Right. And with, so for our viewers watching, all of your destination ACM events and your automated drive series, all of those are then posted to the VSI Labs Twitter and the other social media pages. Of course, on LinkedIn, I always enjoy keeping up with you and, John Cooper as well. So if you see John, make sure you tell him hi. Always appreciate your posts. So I want to invite our viewers to follow VSI Labs on social media as well. Phil, in the last few minutes that we have here, and I always enjoy getting a chance to talk to you. Just do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
um, Well, yeah. CES is not a complete bust. I want to say that. Okay, we're in fact the fewer people actually we're probably able to cover a little bit more ground. We're not so overwhelmed, so that's great.
Sure.
A lot of EV technology here. Okay, as you would expect. And some of the new EV OEMs are here too, the startup EV companies, and I've seen some just really very impressive vehicles, EVs. And then on the commercial truck front, okay, you've got,
Yes.
of course, True Simple is here. There's a couple others too running Class 8 automated vehicles, so we like that. Um, so yeah, no, it's we're glad we came here and are able to again support our customers and provide some exposure to our customers like AI. We love sharing our stories too, Carl.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking always about the drives and that sort of thing, because that's really where we make a lot of our discoveries is through the time on the road. It's all about seat time. Really
Yeah.
is what we say in racing. It's all about seat time.
Yes.
But you know
Yes.
what, you cover tens of thousands of miles every year with a couple of different vehicles, and you can learn quite a bit. So, yep,
Absolutely.
that's what I got.
That makes hey that's good stuff, Phil. And we want to thank you for being on the broadcast today. From all of us at AI, I want to wish you a safe trip back to the Twin Cities and have a great time at CES. And I'll look forward to getting caught up with you at some point in the future, probably at a Destination ACM event. So thank you for
Yep,
joining us today, Phil.
most likely, Carl. Thank you, and thanks to all the folks at AI as well that are supporting this. Um, we'll be in touch soon.
So, talking today with Phil Magni, the founder of VSI Labs. If you follow AutoVision News on LinkedIn, what I'll do here in just a little bit, I'll post a link to a couple of the articles that I have written about these destination ACM events, and then about the automated drive series. Now, the automated drive series, as we were saying, it started a couple of years ago as a way to test and validate the technology and collect data. But again, the story of how VSI Labs modified the car, the run up to getting on the road, and then ultimately some of the things that they have discovered. This has been it's been a really unique a really unique business proposition that VSI Labs does, and it's been a unique way to validate the technology. So I'll post links to some of those articles on the AutoVision News LinkedIn page, so you can read that. And then, of course, if you're a member of the industry or a member of the media, those destination ACM events are open to folks like us. So I encourage you to keep up with VSI Labs on social media so that you can possibly attend the next one. Still to come. Yet today, we had some technical difficulties this morning with some snowstorms here in the Detroit area. So we're going to get caught up with Rick Toole, who is AI's Chief Operating Officer. That live stream is set to begin at 12:30. So in just about 5 minutes or so, that'll air at 12:30 Pacific and then at 3:30 Eastern. And you can find that on all of AI's social media channels. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Now, I'm told from our AI command center that the last two sessions of the day, so Rick's interview and then my closing remarks, they will not be airing on LinkedIn. However, you can still find them on AI's YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. And then everything that we have talked about and covered today, all of the interviews with our industry experts and thought leaders, they will be archived at a later date on AutoVision News. We'll catch you in the next live stream. You're watching Live with AI Virtual CES 2022.